Hey everybody, this is Dave Slack and welcome to the first episode of FPV Style. We're going to do a few things today. One, we're going to have a product review of the QAV400, which is a small 400 class quadcopter from the friends over at Lumenier and FPV. And also we're going to do a Q&A session on some of the more common questions that we see coming into our YouTube channel and also on forums like RC groups. And then last, hey, it wouldn't be FPV Style if we didn't show a bunch of cool clips of some of the best FPV footage out there by the best pilots around, from guys like JUZ, MidwestRob, XHover, and more. So let's get this started. Alright, so let's get started with our product review of the QAV400, the small 400 class quadcopter from Lumenier. Now, the guys at Lumenier really pioneered quadcopter platforms that produce zero jello in film. So originally back in 2012 they released their QAV500 and then decided in 2013, a year later, to come out with a smaller platform, the QAV400. And boy, let me tell you something, we're glad they did, because this thing is awesome. Alright, so let's pause for a second and just take a gander at the QAV400. We'll call this quadcopter porn. Shake it down, wow. Alright, enough of that. I don't know, is it getting hot in here or is it just me? Anyway, so let's go ahead and throw out the key benefits of the QAV400, please. Excellent. So, here are the key benefits of the QAV400. One, this thing is small. It's a 400 class quad, which means it's easy to throw in the back of your backpack. It's easy to get in and out of your car. You don't have to have a Mack truck to fit the thing and go where you want to go to film whatever you want to film. Second, because of that, it is light, super agile. It's great. No, it's not even, let's listen. It's awesome at aggressive stunt flying, fast flying. I mean, just look at some of the footage from JUZ here. Hold on, check this out. I mean, oh, forward flip over the bridge. Double flip. I don't know what you call that. Anyway, this thing is super agile, as you can see. So, you would think, wow, small, agile, stunt flying, but would it be any good at anything else? The answer? Yes. I don't know what it is about the frame design. I think it might be a little bit of added weights. We said it's light. Yes, it's light for your average quadcopter, but it's not really all that light when you compare it to something like the Blade 350 or the DJI Phantom. No, it's heavier. It's 375 grams, the frame alone. And those platforms are certainly lighter than that. I mean, a Flame Wheel 450 I think is like 282 grams, something like that. So we think that the extra little weight actually helps the QAV400 remain very stable for cinematic footage as well. So not only does it fly stunt and acro and aggressive flying, but this thing flies beautifully for cinematic footage as well. Matter of fact, you take this platform, we were so impressed with it and how stable it was. we decided let's throw a brushless gimbal on this and see what it really could do from, you know, kind of an aerial photography or cinematography perspective, and we were just blown away. I mean, this thing performs awesomely in both camps, the aerial photography, cinematography camp, as well as the aggressive acro camp. Very impressed with what this little quad can do. So let's talk about the configuration. So what did we find out about the QAV400 over the last few weeks and months? Well, we tried a few different things, right? We tried different motors, multiple different ESCs, lots of different props. And I know everyone out there is going to debate this, you know, around what flight controller is best, and, you know, is it the CC3D, you know, is it the copper control stuff, is it NASA, is it KK2s, etc., etc. I'm going to leave that to the side and let everybody else kind of, you know, have that debate themselves on what they think is the best flight controller. But there's really three things that kind of dictate how well your quad's going to fly, in my opinion, outside of the flight controller. 1, your motors, 2, your ESCs, and 3, your props. So with the QAV400, we tried a few different motors ranging from 700 kV motors to 1100 kV motors. And what we found is, as we kind of stepped down into the 900 kVs and 750 kV motors, even with 4S powering instead of 3S, we just weren't getting the pop that we wanted, that punch that we wanted. So we moved up to the 1100 kV motors. We actually got some Lumenier 2216 by 9 1100 kV motors, and those ended up being by far the best motors we tested for this platform. They gave it that pop, that punch that we wanted, especially with an all-up weight of about 1,700 grams. So our QAV400, as you see over here, with the brushless gimbal, with a 3,300 mAh pack, came in at about 1,700 all-up weight, 1,700 grams. So it was pretty heavy. We wanted that extra punch. So that 1100 kV motors really gave it that punch that we wanted, and I mean, it flew awesomely. Still does. Still had plenty of power. You can still get aggressive, fairly aggressive. I mean, with a gimbal on it, we're not doing rolls and flips, but we were getting some speed up. It was handling really great in the wind. That was shocking. I mean, I was really surprised how well it handled moderate windy days. So anyway, the 2216 by 9 1100 kV motors from Lumenier worked awesome. Now they're a $46 motor, somewhere in that price range. So I know a lot of you are going to say, wow, that's kind of steep. If you're on a budget, yes, you can find $20, $25 motors out there, no problem. I would stick with something in that 2216 size range, and definitely up into the 1100 kV range on the motors. Now remember, the QAV400, the way it's designed, can only spin 8-inch props. 9-inch and 10-inch won't fit. There's not enough room between the motor mount and the top section of the frame. So you got to stick with 8-inch props. Now, speaking of props, we tried a lot of different props. And lo and behold, we just had some of the tried and true 8-inch APC slow fly props, threw them on there. I have to say they were the easiest to balance, and that's critical, balancing your props. If you haven't heard this before, you need to balance your props. And that is, even though the QAV400 is awesome at eliminating vibrations, if your props are just horrible, then you will get vibration in the film, in the video. Not all the time, but it will be noticeable from time to time for sure. So balance the props. The APCs, they balanced out really easy, and we found that prop mated with our configuration on the QAV400 flew exceptionally well, and we got good flight times out of it. We were averaging 8 minutes, 8-minute flights on a 3,300 mAh pack with a 1,700 gram weight all up. That's pretty phenomenal. Nothing to complain about there. And like zero jello. I mean, when we edited our footage, I'm guessing we used probably 95 to 98% of our entire footage was usable because there's just no jello in any of it. It was fantastic. So anyway, that we believe is kind of the perfect combination, prop and motor. So now when we talk about the ESCs, that third piece I mentioned. So we tried two different ESCs. We tried the Turnigy Plus 25 amp ESCs with stock firmware, and then we tried the Lumenier 30 amp Simon K flashed ESCs. Let's get down to it this way. Here's what I noticed. I noticed that the quad has a more locked in feeling, and especially in wind, where you tend to start getting some wobbles, and you can see it, you can feel it. With the Simon K flash ESCs, it does seem to handle that better. I think the ESCs, the Simon K firmware is just a little more efficient. Because it's efficient, it can spin those props up, spin them up faster, slower as needed to keep everything stable. So from my perspective, go with the Simon K flash ESCs. I was really impressed with the Lumenier 30 amp flash ESCs for this platform. It was great. I know there's going to be a lot of people out there saying, oh my god, 30 amp, that's way overkill for those motors, Dave. What are you doing? You only need 18 or 20 amp. Agree with you. I do. But Lumenier doesn't make an 18, 20, or 25 amp. They make a 30 amp. So we went with the 30 amp, made it with the Lumenier motors, with the Lumenier QAV400 quad frame. It's Lumenier all around. And hey, not unhappy we did. I mean, this thing is awesome. I can't say enough about it. So in our minds, that is the perfect combination and configuration. So tell you what, we're going to take a pause here, and we'll be right back to answer some Q&A questions that we typically see, again, on our YouTube channel and in different RC groups. Hey everyone, it's Dave Slack again. We wanted to take a moment to remind everybody we're not getting paid to do any of this. We simply do it because we love our sport and hobby. We also want to thank JUZ, MidwestRob, and XHover for allowing us to use some of their awesome FPV footage in our first FPV Style episode. So do us a favor, head on over to their channels on YouTube, make sure that you visit their channels, subscribe, give them some big thumbs up, and you know, I wouldn't mind if you did for me too, if you like what we're doing here, and hope to make them better. This is the first one. They will only get better over time, we promise you that. So stay tuned, we're getting right into the Q&A right now. Alright, let's get into our Q&A session for this episode. So, we get this question quite a bit, and that is, what video frequency do we use when we're flying FPV? And what is best for you? Well, that's an easy question and not such a simple answer for what's best for you. We use, about 80% of the time, 5.8 gigahertz on our video frequency, and about 20% of the time or so we use 1.2 to 1.3 gigahertz frequency with our ground station backpack. And it really depends on what we're going to be doing that day. So what we find is we use 5.8 a lot because it's really simple for us to use. We don't have to carry a backpack with us. We don't have to carry a ground station, set anything up. It's literally, we can get in and out of somewhere real quick and without any hassle. And most of the time we're not doing a lot of what I call freedom flying. So a lot of the videos you saw earlier and even right now from JUZ and MidwestRob and XHover, that's what I would call freedom flying. Want to go wherever I want to go, when I want to go. It doesn't matter if it's behind buildings, obstacles, deep into trees, all of that stuff. You simply can't do with 5.8 gigahertz. That 5.8 gigahertz frequency does not have good penetration at all, and I have to be very careful of what I'm flying around and where I'm flying. I can go behind a tree or two, I can go behind an obstacle, but only if it's for a very short amount of time, and I will get some fuzzy and stuff. If I try to do anything like what you've seen from JUZ and MidwestRob and XHover, you'll get a total blackout. You cannot take 5.8 gigahertz and expect to go behind obstacles, into dense foliage and trees and all that kind of stuff. You will get a blackout, and then your quad's going to hit the dirt, and that's no fun. So, but for the most part, what we like about 5.8, it's easy, it's quick. Most of the time, you're going to buy FPV goggles. You can buy the FPV goggles with an embedded 5.8 gigahertz receiver, so it's a very simple, cost-effective, affordable, easy way to get into FPV. If I am going to do some flying where I know I'm going to be doing much longer ranges, I want to get behind obstacles, I want to do a little more freedom flying, then I'll bring the backpack, I'll rig my 1.2, 1.3 gigahertz transmitter up on my quad, and off and away I go. Now there is some things that you got to think about with 1.2 and 1.3 gigahertz that you don't have to worry about with 5.8. If you're using a 2.4 gigahertz radio controller, you need to have a high pass filter on your video transmitter, so remember that. And also, if I am going to go 1.2, I've already mentioned, you need to have some kind of a ground station, because to my knowledge there is no FPV goggles that have built-in 1.2, 1.3 gigahertz receivers in them, so you're going to have to invest in a ground station, so it's a bit of extra cost. So the only other thing that I can say about 1.2, 1.3 is that it's much better penetration, much better range. Oh, and it also needs less power. So if you're going to go 1.2, 1.3 gigahertz, you can easily stay in the 200 to 400 milliwatt range, no problem. If you go with 5.8 gigahertz, you're going to need something with more power. So minimum 400 milliwatts. I would stick with 600 milliwatts. I've tried them both. Tried a few brands of 600 milliwatts, and I would stick with 600 milliwatts. It gives me about just under a kilometer of range most of the time, which is plenty for what I'm doing. I never really fly much farther than that anyway. So yeah, that's what we use, and that's why we use it, and that should explain maybe a little bit about the two different frequencies that we run. So the only other thing I'd say about if you're going to go 1.2, 1.3, that you probably want to invest in a long range system for your radio controller, because at 1.2, 1.3, at 400 milliwatts, those kinds of power with that frequency, you're actually going to start surpassing the capabilities of your radio transmitter at 2.4 gigahertz, stock radio transmitters. So if you're going to go 1.2, 1.3, I would highly recommend that you look at some long-range system to upgrade your radio controller, either something like the Dragon Link or the Easy UHF by Emergent RC. Those two are really popular. I think they're both in that $260 to $300 range, depending on where you go and what you buy. So that's it for our Q&A session, and that's actually going to be it for the first episode of FPV Style. We hope you enjoyed it. Again, my name is Dave Slack, and if you did enjoy it, please subscribe to our channel, leave us some comments, give us some thumbs up, spread the word. Like I said earlier in the intermission, they're only going to get better. We're going to cover more topics, we're going to feature more products, and this is just a beginning. So thank you very much for watching, and we hope you got something informative and you enjoyed the show. Have a great day.